today we're going to go through what we're seeing. We're definitely seeing a lot. Mike really looks at our data on a daily basis, and he's providing us reports. What is going on? How can we shift? As marketers and designers and branding professionals and even business leaders, our lives has really drastically changed in the last couple months due to COVID-19. First off, I just want to thank anyone that has a wife or a spouse or a husband that's working as a first responder. I mean, they're doing an amazing job helping anyone that is taken down by COVID-19, and that support is amazing. Also, we see a lot of businesses, not only here in Rochester, really changing their models and helping during this time. I think that's really cool to see. But I think a lot of us in the business world right now, especially the marketing world, we're experiencing pain, right? I mean, there's a lot of businesses that are hurting right now, especially certain industries. Some industries are actually spiking right now and doing even more than what they were doing before because of coronavirus and related reasons. And in other cases, demand is down. We don't have that ability to go out to the bars, go out to the restaurants and movies and bowling alleys, and it really has changed. So right now, more than ever, I think looking at your data, looking at what your customer patterns are looking at is more important than ever. And if you're looking at those things, it's going to help you kind of get through this, right? How do we rebound when the market starts doing a lot better? How do we, and I love that word rebound, right? It's how do we take this period of time and how do we grow from here? As we know, we have a lot of that pain. So it's changing and it's going to continue to change. But today, I hope that some of our questions that we'll answer will kind of spark some. Please feel free to ask some questions later on, and then you can always reach out to us after this 20-minute conversation. But really, what are the changes we're seeing in website traffic, SEO, due to COVID-19? And so Mike Farney, who leads our data and looking at our website traffic, looking at the trends in SEO, what are you seeing, Mike?
Well, I think we all have to start with kind of where this all started, at least from a website data point of view. And what we've seen with all our customers, and I'm sure it's true for everyone, is on March 11th, the World Health Organization made the announcement that COVID-19 was indeed a worldwide pandemic. And so what we saw in web traffic after that, it has been a real change, either up and down, depending on the industry that you're in. So industries such as finance, alcohol, health, and grocery have all gone up quite a bit. You know, some up 50, 70% in website traffic, whereas more venue-based businesses like restaurants and food and beverage and entertainment type venues, fitness, stuff like that, they've gone down anywhere between 20 and 50% in website traffic. So there have been some real stark changes since March 11th after that announcement was made. And I think we're also seeing it on the SEO side of things, search engine optimization, Google searches. We're seeing early signs that an algorithm change that Google made back in August of 2018 called the Medic update. Some of the algorithm changes that were made at that time are starting to come more into play now that we're in this new environment. And so if you ever look at Google search quality guidelines, which they publish, they talk about this a lot, something called EAT and also YMYL, which is your money, your life. And what that means is Google's interested in making sure that if anybody's making any sort of financial decisions, purchasing something online, deciding to do business with a company online, they want to make sure that they have the authority and the credibility before they put them into the search results. So the reason this is important is we're detecting that some of the machine learning that's going on inside of the Google algorithm from that MEDIC update is starting to be more important now that we're in this crisis, now that there are more scams that are out there. People are trying to take advantage of people who are afraid. So the message I have to our customers and everyone else is make sure you're really doing a lot to prove that you're an authority in your industry, that you have credibility, and that you're developing really strong content that speaks to your customers, and that understanding what your customers are looking for is really important right now.
Yeah, those are great points. And we really see a different pattern of what customers are doing, not only from a search perspective, but how they're kind of getting to a website. We see a lot more growth when it comes to social media. I mean, and searches on YouTube, a lot is around COVID-19. So if you're not talking about COVID-19, most likely you're not going to show up in any of those search related terms. So this kind of brings us into, should companies stop marketing and advertising during this time? I know this is a tough time. A lot of companies are having to scale back, lay off members of their team. And we've seen a real big drop in marketing and advertising. What this actually does, and we'll have Mike kind of look at from the numbers what is really happening here, but we do see from an advertising perspective, the cost of ads is going down because there's not as much demand out there. There's not as many people in there, but we do see many more people flooding the market from Facebook to YouTube to LinkedIn. They're all trying to get answers, and we're all stuck at home trying to figure out our next steps. But right now, getting into that online marketing, it has been very important for our customers. So Mike, what are some of the things you're seeing from a marketing advertising perspective from the data?
Well, I think after March 11th, we saw a lot of customers give us a call, and just saw it in the industry overall, which is people just stopped their advertising. You know, it was almost kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It was kind of this sense of panic almost, you know. And I think the message that I was trying to deliver to, you know, some of our customers, and I think a lot of us in the SEO and SEM world are trying to do the same thing, is, hey, look, take a deep breath, go back to the data, try to really understand how your customers are starting to react to what is happening, and get more surgical with your advertising instead of just doing a kind of a painting with a broad brush and just shutting everything down. I don't think that bodes well for a lot of companies, and I think the companies who are a little more surgical with their advertising, where they're getting a better understanding for what their customers are interested in looking for, and maybe focusing their ad dollars in those spaces, are going to come out of this and be more ready for whatever the new normal looks like. And so I think it's real important for companies to go back, look at maybe reinvest in some research around advertising keywords, and then also looking at their analytics data to see what's going on with the traffic that they have post March 11th, and comparing that to year-over-year data and month-over-month data to see, okay, what's changed? How are things different? So we can adjust our ad campaign. And lastly, I think it's really important to understand your customer sales cycles and maybe how they've changed. I think if you have sales cycles that are transactional, it's going to be harder to figure out the ad spend. But if you've got sales cycles that are, you know, many weeks, months, maybe even years in length, it's real important to keep out in front of your customers and and understand what they want and keep advertising to them so you keep that pipeline full, because this isn't going to last forever. So it's important to keep investing in marketing, albeit it may be different.
Yeah, and I like what you said about kind of taking that surgical review at it and really taking a deep dive in how you can make your marketing and advertising more, not just cutting it, right? It's more how can you look at your communication, which our next question is, how has online communication with customers changed, which I think is important, especially around even the marketing and advertising. So marketing and ads during this time have totally changed. So some companies have just cut it all together, but some have said, hey, we need to stop right here and change our message, which I think is important, right? How does that online communication, because you can't really, someone on YouTube I was watching, you can't go out there and say, hey, we have 50% off our phones this month, but you can change your message in a way and still have the same offer, but come in at it as, hey, we know everyone is having a hard time. We have people out of work. We have nurses having to go in on long hours. What we're going to do is give a 50% coupon for those people to get on our service. So it's really, how do you change that communication? So Mike, what are some other ways that we can change due to COVID-19?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to have a message about your business and how COVID-19's affecting your business. So having some sort of communication on your website, also on your Google My Business page. That's one thing that Google's providing a special message on your Google My Business page, which is when somebody types in your business name into Google, your Google My Business profile shows up in the right-hand side of the search results page. And providing special message about the status of your business. Is it open? Is it closed? If it is open, what are your rules? How do you communicate with your employees and so on? That is really, really important to do. I hate to say it, but I see so many companies who are just not doing it right now. They just are not communicating the status of their company, how this is affecting their company's operations. And it's really crucial to at least have that level of communication, and as things change, updating that information. As we come out of this, people are going to have more questions. If I come to your office, if I come to your business, what are the rules? How do we engage each other? That kind of thing. And then I think also it's real important to understand how to adapt your business to your new customers' needs. So I'll use the example of the financial industry. A lot of people are interested in refinancing their mortgages. So if you're a bank or some sort of financial institution that sells mortgages, you see the amount of searches and page views go way up for that. But on the flip side of it, you see people who are hurting, who need to stop payments, car payments, whatever. You need to be able to service and help those folks as well. So it's important to understand how the different needs of your customers are and how it relates to your website. And then I think another example is the restaurant business. So a lot of restaurants have been really hurt by this, but I think the ones that have adapted and adjusted by doing curbside pickup or using Grubhub or DoorDash have done much better and are more likely to survive. So it's going to be a lot about understanding, what your customers need now and how it's changed in communicating that clearly through all your online communications.
Yeah, that's a great point. We at Eagle Dream are always talking about digital transformation. And a lot of people are like, what does that mean? I think we are all living digital transformation right now because we can't leave our houses. So we're all on our phones, we're all on our computers. And you bring up the restaurant industry. There's actually some restaurants here in Rochester that are actually doing better now and making more profit, but it was because they were set up for that digital intake of all these online orders and was able to fulfill those. So they really had to digitally transform their model, right? And we see that across the board, not just restaurants. My kids did not know what Zoom was before that. And Zoom has probably been the biggest digital transformation that everyone now is confident that they can do a Zoom call. So our last question is, what is that future of online business post-COVID-19? I mean, post-COVID-19, I don't know if COVID-19 will just kind of go away like MERS and SARS and all of those. And a lot of professionals are saying it's going to be kind of like that flu type thing. But really, I think it's taken everyone back, right? How do we become more digitally prepared for something like this? We've had to change so many different things when it comes to our customers and helping them. How do we create Zoom meetings for our customers? How do we create COVID-19 pages to help their customers understand how their business is being affected? So there's other things, right? It's being knowledgeable. Mike, so from your perspective, and I know I love when you're digging deep into the data and you're giving us all the recommendations and giving all of our customers recommendations. So what do you see as the future of online business? What should we be prepared for?
Well, you really, I mean, you can probably hear the theme in my discussion today, which is, you really have to understand your customer. And I think you're going to have to understand what their needs are so you can understand how you're going to operate in the future. And it's going to be a fluid situation. It's going to be changing. It's not going to be static. I think you kind of said it. COVID-19 there really isn't a post COVID-19. It's more of a what's going to happen next with post or COVID-19, I should say. And I think that makes understanding your customer data even more important. And I think going to your kind of industry consortiums, like there are a lot of industries out there that are doing surveys and research around their customers, and they're learning a lot of interesting things about what it's going to take to get people back into spending habits, going back to venues, to restaurants, whatever it is. And they're learning things about, you need to be really clear about what you're going to do for your customers if they show up there. Are there new rules? Is there hand sanitizer? Are there a certain number of people that are allowed in that location? And there are a lot of people that are saying, okay, if you allow us to be outside, we're going to be more likely to show up to your venue. So that's something that's coming in the summer that won't always be available, year long. But understanding that information about your customers on an industry-wide basis is important, but it's also important to understand how your customers are reacting to your business. And you can get that through web analytics, data lakes, data warehouses. There's a lot of, especially in larger organizations, there's a lot of financial information, customer information, logistical information that gives you a lot of really valuable information about your customers and their buying habits, and being able to put them into a database where you can, or a flat file where you can report on that and visualize that information and learn more about your customers is really, really important. And then lastly, doing this at least on a monthly basis and really monitoring what's going on and trying to get closer to your customers is really, really important. So that's the real theme of all this, is just keep learning, keep trying to understand and adapt, because things aren't going to stay the same.
Yeah, that's great. So any questions from the audience here? Looks like you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. And then you can type your question in the chat box. And
Or
I
if there's,
know, go ahead, Courtney.
I was going to say, if there's anyone on the phone that isn't joining us via the computer, feel free to unmute and ask your question. Oh, now I'm getting a couple questions. All right, I'm gonna go for one from Scott. What tools do you like for gathering customer information from your own website?
Thanks, Scott. Great question. Google Analytics, of course. I mean, most everybody uses that. But I also like to use Google Search Console because that gives you some good Google search query data. It's not perfect. We know that the way that Google puts that search query data in isn't exact, but it gives us an idea of how people are searching and where our business is appearing in the search engine results for from Google. So those are probably my two top tools. And then, like I said before, I think general industry organizations that are doing surveys and reaching out to their customers is good broad-based information that helps us kind of understand where things are heading.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Mike always reminds me that you have to make sure that your Google Analytics is set up correctly as well, and have a professional kind of reviewing it. I like to put Google Analytics on all websites. Sometimes when you're looking at the data, you don't understand it all, so making sure it's set up correctly is definitely an important part of that.
Awesome. Another question I have from Ryan. What's the most surprising thing Eagle Dream has noticed as the internet landscape has been adapting to COVID-19?
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think really what we've seen is a large increase in social traffic. I mean, a lot more people are jumping into social media from YouTube, from Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's growing as much well. And if you aren't on those platforms, you're kind of losing out on providing your brand in front of where people are. Another thing would be what we've noticed in the internet landscape is e-commerce. E-commerce is up right now. So if you're not running ads and you do have products online, I would highly suggest running ads to your e-commerce products. Some products are doing really well. I saw that bread makers was like #1 across the board, and it was crazy how much it's gone up. So if you sell bread makers, that is a good product right now. But that's where looking at data, right? What products are going to do well? We've had many of our customers change the products on their website. We're helping a large brand put up hand sanitizer this weekend. So you're changing your products, you're putting different products out, but looking at your data is a very important part of that. Mike, what about you? What are you seeing from maybe a search? What are people searching today?
Well, so the one thing that I really noticed, certainly what you just hit on, was there's a lot of adaptation out there, and if you're not changing the way that you do business, you're probably missing out. But I think that the biggest thing that I saw was there really seems to be such a huge difference in the analytics that I'm looking at for all of our customers pre and post March 11th. It really is amazing to look at. And, you know, we see either large increases or large decreases in traffic because of the March 11th announcement and this whole kind of you know, the business landscape changing because of COVID-19. And, you know, even though some of the businesses have gone down in traffic, it doesn't mean that there's no opportunity for them. I think the ones that are going to survive this are the ones that are paying attention to the traffic that they are getting and how to, you know, pivot or adapt to what their needs are, and that will carry them through.
Yeah, great point.
One last question and then last call for any questions in the chat box. From Alex, is there any concern around messaging fatigue around COVID? I know a lot of emails were flooded with email blasts about the COVID situation. How do you ensure the messaging is unique enough to stand out?
Yeah, I think this is definitely something as a marketing team and a marketing world that if you don't say anything about COVID, you probably aren't reading the room. So you need to say something. But you also need to know how to say it. It's not a time to try to make tons of money off of this huge global crisis, but it's a time to feel confident and to offer up help. I know on our page, which Courtney and our team put out around COVID, we're here to help our customers, whatever questions they have. We want to help their business succeed, right? No one wants the unemployment rate to be super high. So it's really about a message to help. And so if you can keep that message going and doing goodwill, I think that's so important. So the more goodwill you do, obviously, hopefully your business will grow with that. But I think you have to say something about it. And you have to make sure that you're doing it in the right way.
Yeah, I just add to that, Alex. That's a great question, by the way. I think there's a difference between making sure that people understand how your business operates during COVID-19 and then your marketing message, right? I think the first thing that I react to when I see a marketing message that has COVID-19 on it, my eyes glaze over and I don't really get the message. So I think there is some fatigue there. And I think that the businesses that are doing the best aren't really even talking about COVID-19 in their marketing message. They're more talking about what their customers need. So the examples I gave around the finance industry, businesses want to know how to take advantage of the CARES Act. They're not saying COVID-19 CARES Act. They're saying, here's how I can help you with the CARES Act. Here's how I can help you with mortgages. This is how I can help you with your payments or whatever. The message is concise and it's related to COVID, but we're not saying COVID-19. And same with restaurants. They're just adapting and they're giving their customers what they need. So it's more about that than it is talking about specifics around COVID-19, I think.
All right, I think that's up for time. Thank you, Cody and Mike, for sharing this insight. I think this was really beneficial. And I hope everyone enjoyed this week's Tech Break. We'll be back next week, Friday, 12:30, and the topic is going to be around starting your cloud journey through application modernization. So if you have any questions, let us know, and would definitely love any feedback you have on this week's session. Have a great weekend.